This is an origins reading for gliding currents. So in your last origins reading, your guides did get into the actual origin. And now in this reading, we're going to be getting some more information about that. So I have your questions here. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the light. Okay, so now I'm going to visualize the light around you. Okay, so the guide that is really present, kind of dominating the energy of the reading. Your other guides are here. These are the crystals that I pulled. Again, um, these are just the ones that I keep feeling. So I know they're like a representation of your guides because they're coming in with the eye, the white eye, and then the pyramid. And again, this uh, can represent both the male and the female guide, but somehow the sphere does represent the female guide as well. And then, of course, the pyramid that has to do with the fire guide. But the guide that is actually really kind of dominating the energy of the reading right now is the third guide who came in. And if I remember right, this felt more like a temporary guide for you, or um, at least not a primary guide for you. It didn't feel like one of your primary guides. And so I feel a lot of energy from him. Okay. So there were some other things that I was seeing when I was building the sacred space, but he's talking, so I should probably. Uh, so I'm just going to get into what he's saying, and I'll get into that later if it comes up again. Otherwise, I can just say what it was in the email that I send you. So this is actually Z's primary guide. This ice man. Okay, and he's saying that again. He said his name. I think it's his name. He said this before, and I forgot it, and now he's saying it again. He has a pretty interesting name. Your guides seem to really like using songs, and I know they use songs with you too, and then in these readings with me, I mean, in the last one, it was like a song and dance routine, and using a lot of like sounds like this, and I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have me snapping and stuff. They were having me clap and tone and all this to activate you. And they do really seem to be into that because, okay, his name is actually similar to Fungidale's name. Um, Fengidale, he's like an elemental as well. He's like an elemental fairy, but just like these guides, he takes on the actual shape of the element, and he hasn't really explained to me his element yet. And I think part of the reason is that it would be maybe too difficult because he is from another planet taking on an energy from there. And so do we necessarily even have that here? What would it be? Is it rain or who knows what they might experience weather-wise on some other planet. So I'm not sure exactly what his element is, but what I do know is that all the syllables of his name, Fun-Gi-Ta-Le, represent an element from his planet. So like ice, wind, fire, whatever. And this guide again was really stressing the syllables, and it was ha vo na tha, but it was like almost like you are drumming, almost like a Native American almost drum beat, like ha vo na tha. It was just repeating in my head over and over, and it obviously means something. The syllables, each syllable means something to this guide, and not just the name as a whole. So, because they reminded me of Fungidale, that each syllable means like a different element. So I don't know if it's necessarily each one is meaning a different element, but each syllable is meaning something. And this almost drumming coming in with this name, that feeling of like drumming, was actually describing like a mountainous energy, like the energy of a mountain. And he was showing me like ice on a mountain, like snow that's sliding down a mountain. And now this was when I was casting the sacred space. He was showing me this, but then also he was then showing me almost like togetherness, and his name has to do something not only with this like kind of mountain energy, but also this energy of bringing people together, but it had to do with snow, almost like at Christmas time, um, like in the winter, like up north in the winter, with snow and everything, like people kind of coming outside during Christmas time and like ice skating or playing in the snow. That's what it felt like. Um, a lot of people don't really think exactly of playing in the snow because we don't all necessarily prefer snow, but he was emphasizing this feeling of actually togetherness because of the snow, and that's an element that can actually bring people together that people would enjoy, which is kind of interesting. Now, the other thing, and they're saying this again, the other thing that came through, that this was after I had made the sacred space when I sat down and was getting ready to do the reading, and he came up. Um, that was when he was saying that he was Z's guide, but then also I was getting a feeling that Z has a similar um, has a similar origin. It felt more like a fairy origin, though, like Okay, so there's a difference kind of between an elemental fairy and someone more like Fingidale. I call him a fairy. Sometimes he calls himself a fairy. I mean, he is a fairy type, but I need to kind of differentiate this um, because there's like a pure elemental that is still, it is still like a fairy type, but it's a pure elemental, meaning it purely is the form of the element. Its form is the element itself. Whereas you can have also a fairy that I would still refer to as an elemental. It's still an elemental type of being, but it's not purely taking on the essence of the element to describe itself, um, or like inhabiting that. So it is also having its own appearance. So you can have a fairy. So it's basically like almost like a fairy being that channels this element, so is extremely connected to it, powerfully connected to it, and channels the current of that energy, as opposed to one that is just taking on the form of this element completely, like it is the element. So it's like you are the element, or you are closely connected and have the ability to basically channel the current of that element. So those are kind of the differences to me anyway. And so I kind of want to differentiate here. So Z um, is not purely taking on the form of the element. It's a more like fairy kind of being type that's also channeling an element. And he didn't say ice. I know he's ice. He's coming in with this form of ice. But he didn't really say that for her. I got more of a feeling like I did get a feeling of water second, like secondary. The thing that came through first was more a feeling of the forest, is what it felt like. It felt more like a nymph. But um, since more than one element was coming through, I am not quite sure 100% it's this one or it's this one. So there could be more than one connection there, but still she's probably going to have one as a primary element. And just also connected to others, or maybe can channel others as well, but there's this one that she mostly channels, that she's mostly connected with. And he's saying, and this makes sense, because let's say even if you live in a forest, there's water nearby. There's going to be wind, going through your hair. There'll be trees everywhere. So the trees will maybe seem dominant, right? But there's still these other elements around. So no matter what surroundings you might be in, still all of the elements are there. They're saying even fire, for instance, in a forest, you can have natural fire. So not just like man-made fire, you can also have natural fire, like a forest fire. So in any of these environments, you're still going to have all of the elements there. So it makes sense that she could be somehow connected to all of them, or multiple ones, not not necessarily all, but multiple ones. And at the same time, there is one dominant energy in a place, or in a person, in a being. So she channels one more dominantly, but she is connected to some others as well. And they're saying that this is the being type that she is. So it's not your exact same thing type, but it is very similar. And so they're saying that there is this connection that you have with her, um, that they're saying goes beyond this lifetime. So they're saying that there is this special connection that you have with her. They're not meaning it though, like they're not meaning it like you prefer her or something. You prefer her more than the other daughter or something silly like that. Um, so they're not meaning it in that way or getting on to you or something like that. That they're kind of clarifying that that isn't what they're meaning or what they're saying. What they are meaning, yeah, because you it just feels like you don't have that or you're not that way, where it's about you preferring one or the other, but at the same time they're saying that there is this special connection there, but they're saying that it has to do with another lifetime that you had where you knew one another and you had this similar, um, similar origin, like similar soul type is what they mean. So I am feeling like, um, because they're getting kind of into your mission now, but I am feeling that part of it does have to do with her. I'm almost getting the sense that you need to almost be careful, um, take extra care when it comes to her because I feel as if she's going to walk down a similar path to you. Like somehow this would almost seem like, okay, she's your daughter, so of course you could do this, or a lot of parents could do this, but not really. Not all parents have this kind of control. Um, I don't really want to use the word control, but influence. That's the word that they're saying. They're saying that you could really heavily influence her, um, to be a highly spiritual person, a psychically aware person later on who is open and operating all of her gifts, or she can be more closed off versus, not versus, depending on how open you are with her about her gifts and how open you are in the way that you express them to her and are willing to raise her. So I'm almost getting this sense from them, like, how open are you willing to be? Like, are you going to be closed off because she'll be closed off? So I'm not sure what that means, but I never really know what anything means since I'm not the person. I'm just repeating, you know, I'm just kind of blindly repeating basically in every single one of these readings. That's really what it is. It's blindly repeating whatever whatever I'm getting. But yeah, I just have the feeling that you'll know what that means. You'll understand that. So your openness, I feel like that is the one thing that they would correct you on, almost. It almost does feel like a slight correction. Not, it doesn't feel harsh at all. I feel like they want to emphasize they're not being harsh, but I get the feeling almost like that could be something to change, to improve on, and for her benefit. And it doesn't mean you have to do it drastically, but I do feel like she does need to be taught about this stuff and in a fun way. And it's more about her. So I almost get the feeling from them like could um you could almost do it on the side, or do it in a way where not everybody is necessarily aware that you are doing this. So to me, you seem very open about your spirituality, but you're talking to me, um, so obviously I can't really say, only you can say. But what I can tell you from this is that there is this energy of almost like a closed offness. Like in some ways, spirituality is something that you do kind of um, I'm almost getting the word shun. I'm almost getting the word shun, or maybe that energy is still there. Some of this feels present though. So yeah. So this is like, because I don't know you, we don't really know one another very well, but I know you slightly, I know you somewhat, and so this is where my 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 head will get in the way. I just have to, like I said, I just have to repeat everything, and you can make sense of it because this doesn't make sense to me. You seem very open to me, and so that's kind of the last correction that I would have been expecting from a reading of yours. But I just feel from them, be careful that you are open with her about everything in this area, that she needs to know this stuff, and that um, she could be psychic later on, like advanced, like psychically aware, and um, improved to the point where she is advanced, is what it feels like, where she could read others herself. And they're saying that she already can, it just needs to be nurtured. So they're saying to nourish the right things in her environment. And I almost feel like using the environment, um, using outside, and almost they're saying she has this connection to nature. So almost you can help her learn these things by opening her up in that way. Now, I also get the feeling that this reading isn't all about her. It is a little about you too. But they are saying that that's part of your mission, not the whole, but that is part of the reason that you came in at this time, was also to bring her through and almost help her through this lifetime, even when she is older. She's going to be coming to you. She's going to be learning from you. And this is an area where you're especially meant to help her. And this is why she came through you. Like, not all, there again, not all, but a big part of the reason is her own, um, like spiritual understanding and like psychic ability and even mission. They're saying psychic mission. So they're almost saying like a starseed mission, only in this case, she's not exactly a starseed. She is another soul type, but the same type of concept, like a starseed mission. They're saying with you currently, they're saying, so not later on. I almost feel like they don't really want to get into later on that much. And I almost feel even like that's part of the reason that they are kind of focusing on Z a bit. Because there's some details that almost you need to figure out yourself. I definitely get this from guides sometimes. Um, Not a lot, not all the time, but sometimes they are less specific. They want the person to figure it out themselves. Especially with a fairy type of being, they expect you to do it yourself. They feel like equals, like you're going to do this with us. We're doing it with you, but we're not doing it for you. And all guides feel that way, but specifically a fairy personality, it has that kind of tilt to it. So there's an emphasis to that energy even more so than another being type, another type of guide. But yeah, your current, um, so almost leading up to your mission, or sort of the next phase. Um, so yeah, so not like one mission later on, like in a sense, your whole life is like a series of missions. There are different things to learn. They're saying like an obstacle course. The whole thing is like a maze or an obstacle course. They're saying a maze in a sense because they're saying this word that I used earlier, blindly. I think, yeah, they did. No, they gave me that word when I was saying, I'm just like blindly repeating information. They put that word in my head, blindly. But they're saying that again. In a sense, it is like a maze because you're kind of going through blindly. Um, they're showing me like a blindfold on. So they're saying it's like a game. You put the blindfold on and you find your way through the maze like a mouse. And they're saying, where's the cheese? And it's like that's your hint. So you do have this hint of where to go, the direction of where the cheese smell is coming from. What a weird analogy they're using. Um, but you don't really know anything else. And so it's about following this like current series of events. So they're saying to worry about right now. And they're also saying that you're doing that. You're doing very well with that. But right now, they're saying that you are getting clear on yourself. You're getting like who you are. You're figuring out like your own intentions for things, your own placement, like almost like what you want, what you desire, and putting that first. So this will lead you to later on. I just don't feel like um I feel like you have to just what like don't doubt yourself. So for that reason, they're not going to tell me exact things about your mission like you would want to hear or would probably want to hear. Like you might want to hear is the word they're using, might. Like you kind of want to hear. You kind of don't at the same time, they're saying. But they're saying that this is up to you, so lay down your doubt. And I do have this female coming in. I saw a female at the beginning of the reading actually, um, coming in with some kind of like a almost like a shawl, this black shawl. Um, it almost kind of dances around this black shawl that she has, but this feels like Z's guide too. This isn't your guide. Um, and this feels more like a full-on fairy, not so much an elemental by any means. Except I will say kind of a nighttime energy, and but like the creative side of night, like the intuitive, she's like kind of an intuitive, playful, creative kind of energy. At the same time, serious though. There's a serious nature to her as well, like a mature nature. I feel like in some ways Z is similar to her. She's like her. Okay, so that is the end of this reading, and I'll get into those next questions that you sent over for the next readings, but for the next reading, I mean, but I was gonna say, but I was gonna say they, I was gonna say this, and they are kind of emphasizing this to me as well, but they do kind of uh, handle the questions the way they want your guides. Again, I think part of that has to do with the fact that they are fairies. Any guide would do that, but again, just a little bit more so when you have this guide type. They want you to do it yourself. So they're kind of almost redirecting your questions a little bit is the sense that I get from them. Um, corralling, is that the right word? I don't know. Um, like like getting the cows where you want them to go in the pen. They're like herding your questions. Okay, so but our time is up, so thank you very much again, Gliding Current, as always, for allowing me to do this reading for you, and I will see you next time.